You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. We are live. It is Thursday, rather. Wow, where does the week go? Thursday, January 28th, 2016, a little after 11 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone. We're live on IPM Nation 1, and of course, because it's Thursday night, we're also on OTR FM, and coming to you from the Uptown Auto Repair Studio in Manchester, New Hampshire, and of course, the IPM Nation live station powered by Ambit Energy. You can go to ambitrabbit.com, learn how to save on your energy bill. And we have joining us via phone tonight, author Casey Harvell. Casey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. And it's nice to have you with us. My understanding is you haven't done too many of these interviews so far.
I know.
So
Nope, this is the first one, actually.
All right. Well, you've certainly you've had some success for someone who hasn't done a lot of interviews. I mean, I was noticing, I was looking at your website, and you are an Amazon best-selling author as well as USA Today recommended.
Yes.
And so it looks like you've written. How many books have you written? Because it looks like you're pretty prolific.
I have quite a few. About 12 out, number 13 on the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of them I noticed is a series, the Electric series, I think it's called.
Yep, I actually have two series. The Electric series is actually the one that's recommended by USA Today.
Okay. So how does that, and I want to talk more about your books in a moment, but how does that happen? How do you get to be a USA Today recommended author?
It was kind of by accident, really, if you can believe that. I had gotten an email about somebody wanting to review the series, and I said, sure, of course. You never turn an opportunity down. Once I got the email back, they said they really liked it. They wanted to do a review, and would I do an interview? And I said, sure. So I did that, and then the next thing I know, she sends me a link, and it's on USA Today, and I was amazed. I was just floored by it.
Oh, so that was a total surprise. That's great. And what about in terms of being an Amazon best-selling author? I mean, is that I know that things have changed a lot in the publishing industry. We have a host here on IPM Nation, Kendra L. Saunders, who's a published author, and I've learned a lot about this from her. But I know that is that something that they've always done, Amazon, in terms of having their own best-selling list, or is that come into play more with the Kindle? Everybody has a Kindle now, or how does that happen?
It definitely does have a lot to do. It's all done with the ebook market, from my understanding, and it's been in play as long as I've been doing this since 2011. I'm not really sure before that. As far as I know, it goes by sales rank. So, it depends on how many people are downloading what, and they kind of populate their own scores, and they list it for better views and all of that, and for us to bite our fingernails over, of course.
Yeah, I get the impression that being successful on Amazon is really crucial to being a successful author. And you said 2011 is when you started writing?
Actually, I've been writing forever. It actually took me 5 years to write my first book and get it out there.
Yeah.
But 2011 would be when I first self-published.
So you've had 13 books since then. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a go big or go home kind of girl. So.
Yeah. No, that's great. And do you find that because a couple of them are part of you've got a couple of books, or a couple of series of books, I should say. Does writing a series, does that make it, I don't know if I'm asking it the right way, but does it make it easier to be prolific? Because when you're writing a series, there's always, you always know at the end of one book that you're probably going to have another one with that same character?
In some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder. for instance, the electric series, that was just kind of, I know where this is going. When I finished it, I was kind of sad. I had to sit there and go like, okay, well, we can do, a prequel or something, or spin-off. It doesn't have to be over. But my other series, I feel bad. I have readers who are like, when's the last book? I'm like, I swear it's coming. I just have to work out this one last little thing. But, it's hard to wrap this one up. So, it definitely varies.
Sure. What do you write about? I will confess, I'm in full disclosure, I have not yet read any of your books, but what do you tend to write about?
I write romance, but I'm kind of all over the place in my subgenres, just kind of like I am in real life.
Sure.
So, I have everything from, a romantic thriller, new adult. The Electric series is actually an apocalypse series, so it's about the end of the world. And that's actually a YA series, too, so it's for readers of all ages.
So YA, that's young adult, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And, in terms of distribution, are the books in stores and everything, or do you just kind of do that through Amazon? Because, again, I know it's, in the modern era with the internet, you've got options as far as how you distribute books, and it seems like, I get the impression you've had a lot of success with the ebooks with Kindle, but do you also distribute them through traditional channels?
I do actually have groups in other locations, one in Pennsylvania, one here in New York, and then the rest is done through Amazon and, of course, book signings and events and stuff like that.
Yeah. Is it, you said some of this happened by accident.
Yeah.
What was this always a goal of yours to be a published author? Or, you said you'd always been writing, but lots of people write and don't necessarily have ambitions to be a published author, but
right.
Sometimes, fate kind of steps in. Did you always have this ambition, or is it something that just kind of happened and now you're grateful that it did?
A little bit of both, I guess. It was kind of serendipitous. I've been reading my whole life. I was reading Nora Roberts' books when I was 13. I had outgrown the Babysitters Club and all that. And one day I was just kind of like, I guess I could do this. And I figured I'd give it a try. And, back in the early 2000s, self-publishing wasn't so well known as it is now. And I had no clue about it. And
yeah.
I went through, the standard, okay, let me send this out to publishing agents and let me try this. And, of course, I got nowhere.
Right.
So I kind of just shelved it as, something that could have been. And then one day I was bartending one night, and one of my friends came in and they said, hey, have you heard of, it was Barnes & Noble Puppet was the first one, I think.
Okay.
And that I had been told about. And I was like, no. And so I checked it out, and I was like, well, why not? So I threw my first book up there for free, and it took about 6 months, and I had like 40,000 downloads. And I was like, wow. Okay.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
40,000 downloads. That's, yeah. It's funny how, sometimes in life, just saying, what the hell, I'll try this and just see where it goes, and then it can end up really kind of changing the course of your life. Do you still bartend, or are you just focused on writing now?
I could, but actually, at this point, I focus on writing, and I actually also own a business where I format and edit for other indie authors.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
Go ahead, and do you want to plug that? You should plug your business for
sure.
any prospective authors who are listening.
It's called Fancy Pants Formatting, and it's at fancypantsformatting.com. So I'm always happy to help other authors and with the entire process, because I've done this many times now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, has anyone that you've worked with, anyone who's gone through your business, have they found the kind of success that you have so far?
Yeah. I definitely have some clients that are I'm amazed by them. So,
yeah.
But I think they're all amazing. I had one young man from Canada. He was 16 years old when he wrote a book, and I helped him publish that. And that, just his mom's reaction to all that. He's like, "You made my mom cry." I'm like, "Yay!" I hope in a good way. Like,
right. No, that's fantastic. So, in terms of running that, I mean, do you still have time you still have plenty of time to write your own stuff? Because I know that sometimes authors, or people who engage in any kind of artistic endeavor sometimes have difficulty, if they're running a full-time business, have difficulty also finding time, to do their own stuff. I mean, are you able to balance that?
Yeah, I mean, it took some doing, and sometimes certain things, are prerequisite to other things. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, there's balance. I have two boys, too, who are 6.5 and 11. So, it's kind of all a balancing act.
You got your hands full, definitely. Yeah. So Casey, where should people go online? Where's the best place for people to go online to get your books? Should they go straight to your website? Or?
Yep, caseyharville.com. Everything's right there. Obviously Amazon. But if you're on another e-reading platform, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, any of those, you can find all of that on the website. Okay.
And go ahead and for people who are, for the spelling impaired, and especially, too, since there's a bunch of different ways to spell Casey, why don't you go ahead and spell your name for everybody?
Sure. It's CASEYHARVELL.com.
Okay, great. And when is your next book coming out? Do you know?
It's actually due out on Valentine's Day.
Oh, so coming right up.
Yep.
And what's it called?
It's Me Against the World.
Okay. And is that another young adult book, or what kind of book is it?
No, this is actually a new adult romance, so it's going to be 18 and older because it's got some, inappropriate things for small eyes in it.
Sure. Me Against the World. Okay, so that's coming out on Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, great. Well, Casey Harville, author, and very successful, and I hope you enjoyed your first interview, and we'll have to have you back.
Very much so. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good night, Casey.
Good night.
All right, and for the rest of you, stick around. More Unleashed coming up. There was a debate tonight, so don't go away.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Matt Connarton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connarton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connarton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live on this Thursday evening. And if you would like to participate in the show tonight, you can. Feel free to give us a call at 617-917-4IPM. That's 617-917-4IPM. That's IPM as in IPM Nation, or 4476 if you prefer. And let's see, we also have the chat room at ipmnation.com/live1. Some people like to use the chat. Or, of course, you can tweet me at Matt Connarton, or please, by all means, like the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. we'll try to keep an eye on that too during the show. And I forget to mention too that number that I gave you, which I'll give it one more time: 617-917-4IPM. You can call that or you can text. So we will accept either one at that number if you're too shy to call. Thank you, by the way, again to author Casey Harvell for calling in for the first segment, and enjoyed talking with her. And very impressive, 13 books, and she's only been publishing since 2011. So she's very prolific, so it's easy to see why she's been able to have that success. I think, I get the impression, and a lot of this is from knowing Kendra L. Saunders, who she hasn't done her show in a while, but she has the Kendra L. Saunders show, which runs on IPM Nation, and where she interviews a lot of authors. And it seems like there's a lot of similarities in the way that the publishing industry has changed and the way that the music industry has changed over the years. And in terms of now, you can, just like now, music is distributed largely digitally, although you can still go into a store and buy a physical CD and vinyl even, actually. Publishing has changed too now with the Kindle, and you buy ebooks online on Amazon and whatnot. And as with the music industry too, there's that. I think as attention spans have shortened and there's more instant gratification online and whatnot, it's probably to the advantage of an author, just like it is to the advantage of a lot of musicians, to always be kind of feeding the machine, to always have something new coming out. So to be prolific in the way that she is, I'm sure has been helpful in terms of her having the success that she has thus far. So that's great. There was a debate tonight, and I'll be very interested to see how the ratings turn out for this debate on Fox. I talked about it yesterday on the television edition, how it's not often that you'll hear me say complimentary things about Fox News, but I do commend them for sticking to their guns and not letting Trump push them around in terms of, Trump's big demand, if he was going to participate, was he wanted Megyn Kelly to be ejected as one of the moderators. He's got this bizarre feud with her going, and it's really pretty strange. And I think it makes him look like a less serious candidate. Not that it matters. He joked recently that he could shoot somebody in the middle of the street and it wouldn't affect his poll numbers, and I think he's right. There's really nothing Donald Trump can do that will affect his poll numbers. Even evangelical Christians are flocking to him. The guy who every time he opens his mouth about religion and tries to look like he fits in with the evangelical Christian right of the Republican Party and ends up looking foolish doing so. And it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. The guy, he really could do or say anything and it wouldn't matter. So that's why I continue to say everyone who believes, because there are still so many people clinging to this belief, that the people who don't like Trump, who are Republicans, who think that some other establishment candidate is going to emerge and win the nomination, whether it be Rubio or Jeb or even Ted Cruz, you're dreaming. I'm telling you, it's going to be Trump. The guy can do or say anything, and he still has like a 30% lead in the polls. He's certainly going to win the New Hampshire primary. So he was conspicuous by his absence tonight at the debate. And again, Fox News sticking to their guns, because if they had caved in, if they had actually caved into a candidate in terms of who is going to be moderating the debate, that would be really disgraceful. That's when you say, okay, I think journalism is dead, if they had allowed that to happen. And they didn't allow that to happen. But I also didn't think there was much risk, because people were saying, well, if they don't cave in, that's going to hurt the ratings on the debate. And that was certainly Trump's big thing. Oh, we'll see how their ratings are when I'm not there. And I'll be very curious to see the ratings, because my assertion was that it wouldn't matter, because people would tune in anyway, because people are going to be just as curious to see what it's like with Trump not there, sucking all the oxygen out of the room, than when he is there. So people are still going to tune in. I have to say overall, I mean, to me, it was kind of a yawn. It was just a lot of, I mean, everybody kind of played their usual parts and said the things that they usually say, whether Trump is there or not. So not that interesting, but here's, there was one particularly interesting moment because as longtime listeners of the show know, an issue that I feel very strongly about is immigration. And there was this, I've been very critical of Senator Marco Rubio, on this because he was part of the Gang of Eight that originally tried to do legislation to have a path to citizenship for the undocumented immigrants in this country, and then when it became politically untenable, he ran away from it. You know, he woke up one day and I guess said, oh, wait a minute, I have to run for president. I can't win the Republican nomination being for immigration reform. And Jeb Bush, to his credit, and I don't compliment Jeb Bush a whole lot, but one thing I will compliment him on is he has been pro-immigration reform and has really not backed down from it at all. You know, it's the Republican Party in the macro, I feel, has really boxed themselves in on immigration reform because on the one hand, you know, it's going to be difficult for the Republicans to win back the White House in 2016 if whoever the nominee is still running around talking about building walls and deporting everybody. But on the other hand, if you say anything other than that, you are immediately accused of being for amnesty. Oh, you want open borders and amnesty and this and that. So, you know, I mean, I always say after 2012, I saw all these Republican talking heads on television, all these strategists saying, well, the reason Romney lost is because Republicans need to learn to reach out to Hispanics and stop alienating them. And, you know, and that kind of talk went on for a couple of months. And then it was right back to Republicans everywhere saying, oh, we need to build a wall and we need to deport everybody and blah, blah, blah. So nothing has changed. And that's one of the reasons why I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton will be president is because whoever the Republican nominee is has to look like he hates immigrants while trying to win the general election. And that's very hard to do when Hispanics are the fastest growing demographic in the United States. And I read one projection that by the year 2040, I think Hispanics will actually be the majority and whites will be the minority. I personally don't care, being a non-racist and a non-xenophobe. To me, people are people, so really, who cares? But I know a lot of people get pretty freaked out. I mean, you'll hear people say it. Oh, did you know that by the year 2040, there'll be more Hispanics than white people? Like, that's this awful, terrible thing that we all need to be so fearful of. But, you know, by that time, if the Republican Party doesn't change, there won't be any Republican Party anymore. If Hispanics are the majority, I don't know how Republicans are going to win any elections anywhere talking about building walls and deporting people. But there was a moment in the debate tonight, and this is from Politico. Rubio and Bush tussle over immigration. I'll read this quickly because I know we're going to hit another break in a minute. But Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush briefly clashed over their history on immigration reform, with the Florida Republicans going back and forth for minutes on their past policies. Fox News showed a montage of Rubio vowing as a Senate candidate to end to amnesty, after which moderator Megyn Kelly asked Rubio about his role in the failed 2013 immigration talks as part of the Gang of Eight. Asked whether Rubio had in fact reversed himself on the issue, Bush repeated his frequent line that the senator cut and run from his colleagues on the immigration legislation, which he's correct about, by the way. Quote, well, I'm kind of confused because he was the sponsor of the Gang of Eight bill, which did require a bunch of thresholds, but it ultimately allowed for citizenship over an extended period of time, unquote. Bush said, noting that he agreed to back Rubio at the time. Bush then touted his advocacy for a consensus approach, adding that he has always done so. And then Rubio responded, quote, but Megyn, there's not going to be any consensus on this issue until we enforce our immigration laws. Okay, well, we're not, look, sometimes principle clashes with reality. You can take a principled view on this and say, well, we should enforce our immigration laws. But as a practical pragmatist, I like to look at the reality, and the reality is this. You can say that all you want to. We're never going to enforce our immigration laws, not as they're presently written. We're never going to deport everybody. We're never going to enforce the border. This is an issue that will never truly be solved because both parties raise tons of money on this issue. There's no money in solving problems. It's the Republican Party will continue to raise money on this issue, talking about building walls and deporting people, and the Democrats will continue to raise money on this issue, talking about look at what the Republicans want to do. They want to build walls and deport people. Something that I've really kind of come to the realization of recently is that there are so many issues today, political issues, that are exactly the same as when I was a kid, because I got interested in politics at probably an unhealthily young age. The same issues that Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were debating about in 2012 were mostly the same issues that I actually remember Ronald Reagan and Walter Mondale debating about in 1984 during their presidential debates. A lot doesn't actually change. In terms of foreign policy, yes, things change somewhat. In domestic policy, it's all the same crap. Nothing ever gets solved, ever. Immigration was a big deal when I was a kid. It's a big deal now. There's been no progress in any direction on it, and there never will be. And not to sound conspiratorial on it, but I do believe it is somewhat by design. Again, there's no money in solving problems. The money is in continuing to be able to raise money off of an issue that will never be solved. More Unleashed coming up. We're only halfway done. Don't go away.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live on a Thursday night. We're on OTR FM every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, we're 5 nights a week at 11 p.m. on the IPM Nation live station on Live Channel 1, broadcasting from the Uptown Auto Repair Studio in Manchester, New Hampshire, and powered by Ambit Energy. You can go to ambitrabbit.com to learn more about that. You can save more on your electric bill. And let's see, I do so love the fact checking after a debate. That's one of my favorite things because, obviously, ideologically, the two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, are very different in a lot of ways. But here's something they have in common. At a certain level, when you got a bunch of people running for president, particularly, whether they be Republican or Democrat, they tell a lot of lies. And so after these debates, it's always fun to do the fact checking at one of my favorite websites, politifact.com. Let's see. Oh, I have some audio here first, so I'll play for you, courtesy of the Washington Examiner. Donald Trump, though conspicuous by his absence, he was mentioned in the beginning by Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, the man who at one time seemed to really, as he himself said to a bunch of donors, he said he was going to, embrace Donald Trump in a bear hug for as long as he possibly could. This is how he started tonight. I'll play this.
Secondly, let me say, I'm a maniac, and everyone on this stage is stupid, fat, and ugly. And Ben, you're a terrible surgeon. Now that we've gotten the Donald Trump portion out of the way, I want to thank everyone here for showing the men and women of Iowa the respect to show up and make the case to the people of this state and the people of the country why each of us believe we would make the best commander-in-chief.
So there you go. Ted Cruz, again, showing his sense of humor, as he has a few times recently. It's kind of humanizing him a little bit. By the way, quick side note about Ted Cruz. I'd forgotten about this. There's this video circulating of Ted Cruz when he was 18 years old. And he was being asked, what do you want to do when you grow up or something? Or what are your life's goals? And he makes some joke about butt sweat or something, like an 18-year-old would. And then he says something about, I want to rule the world. I want to be a dictator and rule the world or something. And some people actually took that seriously. And I mean, the story died pretty quickly because he's just an 18-year-old kid saying this, and he clearly was kidding. But it's so weird how sometimes people, if they dislike somebody so much, as so many people do dislike, a lot of Republicans dislike Ted Cruz. They'll take something like that and say, "Oh, see, he wants to be a dictator." It's like he was 18, he was a kid. You know what it reminded me of? In 2008, the Hillary Clinton campaign got so desperate when it was clear that Obama was just killing her that there was this story that leaked about some kid who went to school with Barack Obama back in Hawaii, said that in the first grade that Obama was talking about wanting to be president someday, thus sort of implying that Obama really was a Manchurian candidate who had been groomed by, I don't know, the Illuminati or somebody to be president someday. And this was leaked by the Clinton campaign. That's how desperate they got. And it just reminds me of that. And it's just silly and stupid and whatever. Anyway. The latest from PolitiFact. This is they were live fact checking the debate. So we'll go through a few of these. Let's see. Chris Christie said the neighbors of San Bernardino shooters knew that they were talking about trying to take our country and attack it. That is deemed false by PolitiFact. No inkling of an attack, rather. I did notice my BS meter went off when I heard Christie say that. Ted Cruz said, quote, "I have not insulted Donald personally," unquote. That is deemed mostly false. Cruz has had some tough talk. I guess it depends on how you want to define insult. He certainly hasn't insulted Donald in the way that the Donald insults others. Ted Cruz said, quote, "Barack Obama, right now, number one, over 7 years, has dramatically degraded our military," unquote. That is deemed mostly false. Sequestration has been a pox on both parties. This is something, by the way, that just sidebar here. It's always convenient for either party, whether we have a Democratic president. It's convenient for the Republicans to do this, and when we have a Republican president, it's easy for the Democrats to do this, even though it is, in my view, fundamentally dishonest. Blaming the president for things that the president does not dictate the budget. The president does not make decisions on military spending. That is the Congress. But, it's so much easier to think of the presidency in sort of this hyper-simplified manner, as though the president is some sort of an emperor who decides where every nickel and dime is spent. And it absolutely doesn't work that way. So if you want to talk about the degradation of the military, well, there's plenty of blame to go around. Okay. Let's see. According to Fox News, Donald Trump's decision to skip the Fox News Google debate in Des Moines is near unprecedented. This is only half true. It is not unprecedented, although PolitiFact doesn't elaborate on that. Let's see. Marco Rubio says that under Ted Cruz's tax plan, businesses will now have to pay 16% on the money they make. They will also have to pay 16% on the money they pay their employees. That is mostly true. Let's see. I'm skipping down because there were also other people commenting on the debate as it was happening. But I want to focus on what was being talked about. Oh, actually, I guess that's it so far. They'll continue to update this. Oh, here's something. Marco Rubio said, hostages were released as soon as Ronald Reagan took office because Iran perceived that America was, quote, no longer under the command of someone weak, unquote. That is deemed pants on fire false. Carter's team did the diplomatic work. Yeah, that is something that, it's part of the mythology of Reagan. Yes, the hostages were released after Reagan became president, but that was the end game of a process that the Carter administration had been negotiating. So it's a little more complex than what the history books tell us, certainly. Let's see. Let's try factcheck.org because, the debate just ended a little while ago. So PolitiFact is still updating. Yeah, factcheck.org. Oh, wait a minute. No. Yeah, factcheck.org doesn't really have anything up yet either. Oh, that's too bad. But I do so enjoy. We'll have to come back to that tomorrow night when those are my two favorite websites for the fact checking. It does look like Politico, though, has something up. Top 10 moments of the GOP debate. Let's go through these. Number one, the elephant not in the room. Fox moderator Megyn Kelly began the debate with the question hanging over the entire event, Trump's absence. She asked Cruz what message his decision to skip the debate sends to Iowa voters, and Cruz didn't disappoint in his response, and that was the audio that I played earlier. Number two, the fight for the Liberty vote. Senator Rand Paul predicted that the Libertarian vote that his father, Ron Paul, became associated with in his 2012 presidential run will remain in the Paul household in 2016, despite attempts by Cruz to poach it. He said, I don't think they'll necessarily going to vote for Ted. Yeah, I don't know. That's probably some wishful thinking on Rand Paul's part, because I don't believe that let me put it this way. I know a lot of Ron Paul supporters who are very disappointed in Rand Paul. We'll just say that. Number three, Cruz backs carpet bombing. Asked about his call to carpet bomb ISIS into oblivion, Cruz stuck to his aggressive language. Cruz argued that saturation bombing was a tactic that helped the U.S. dominate the first Persian Gulf War. Cruz took a lot of criticism for using that term, carpet bombing, in the last debate, as though he didn't really know what it meant. Number four, arguing over the rules. Chris Christie took a question about his comparison of Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio to Barack Obama, but he pivoted and instead delivered a lengthy critique of Hillary Clinton instead. And you see a lot of that. Cruz attempted to jump in and respond, but moderator Chris Wallace cut him off, noting that Christie didn't invoke his name during the response. Cruz protested, but Wallace wouldn't relent. Wallace said, quote, I know you like to argue about the rules, unquote. Let's see, number 5, Muslim Americans. Chris Christie argued that it's possible to crack down on homegrown terrorism without profiling against Muslims as long as people use common sense. Despite reports that neighbors of the San Bernardino killers hesitated to call police for fear of profiling Muslims, Christie said that they should have called police not because of their religion, but because of suspicious activity. He said, quote, let law enforcement make those decisions. It's not for them to make those decisions about whether or not something is legal or illegal or profiling or not, unquote. Ben Carson added that rising political correctness has been dictating our policies and will kill us if it isn't checked. Yes. That's a little complicated. I'm not going to get into it right now. I have a response to what Ben Carson said, but I need to think about it a little bit before I say it. Let's see. I'm going to skip down because we're almost out of time in this segment. Number 7, Bush versus Rubio. That was the immigration thing I mentioned earlier. Number 8, Washington Bull. That was Chris Christie playing the I'm a governor, I'm an executive card again. Number 9, Kasich defends Medicaid expansion. That's something that definitely hurts him with a lot of Republican voters. But and then number 10, a one-horse country. Ben Carson got tongue-tied when asked about how he'd handle a Vladimir Putin-backed incursion into Estonia. And you know what? We're gonna respond to that, or we'll look at that a little closer, I should say, after the break, because it needs to. I don't want to gloss over this, so we'll finish up. We'll finish up with that when we come back, and then we'll move on to. I don't know where we're going after that. We'll see. One more segment to go. More Unleashed coming up. Stay with me.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed as we cruise into our final segment tonight. Every Tuesday and Thursday night on OTR FM. And, of course, you can also hear the show 5 nights a week at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 1. And this week's television edition is up as well. You can find that on both the IPM Nation YouTube and Vimeo channels. If you're on IPM Nation, you can just click the YouTube or the Vimeo link in the upper right corner of the page, and it will take you there. And let's see. Okay, so on our top 10 moments of the debate, number 10, Ben Carson got tongue-tied when asked about how he'd handle a Vladimir Putin-backed incursion into Estonia. He didn't directly answer the question, suggesting that the United States should do military exercises with all Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, and give Ukraine offensive weapons. Then he went further and said, Putin is a one-horse country, oil and energy, unquote. Here's a trend with Dr. Carson. When it comes to foreign policy, he just always strikes me as perennial. I can't say that word all of a sudden. Perennially confused. What the hell did that mean? Yeah, I don't know. The guy is just in over his head. Okay, let's completely shift gears because I saw this pop up on HuffPost. Joe Biden tries to tamp down House Democrats' anger over deportation raids. The raids are targeting undocumented mothers and children from Central America. I've talked about this a lot on the show. I have been consistently confounded by the Obama administration on the issue of immigration. On the one hand, they've tried to do some positive things like the DREAM Act and DACA and whatnot, things that I support. But at the same time, though, they love deporting people. And, conservative listeners don't know this, probably many of you, because, Fox News isn't going to talk about that aspect of what the Obama administration does, and neither is conservative talk radio, because that's something the Obama administration does that conservatives would probably agree with if they knew about it. The Obama administration has deported more undocumented immigrants than any other administration in history. That is why immigration activists derisively refer to Obama as the deporter in chief. So it's very strange. On the one hand, Obama has tried to do some positive things, and unfortunately, anything he does by executive order, whether it's good or bad, and I think the things he's tried to do on immigration have been good, have been positive. He's the imperial president trying to do things by executive order. Previous presidents have done things, Republican presidents have done things by executive order on the issue of immigration. And, Reagan, Saint Reagan, everyone's big conservative hero, signed executive orders on immigration. And, of course, you didn't hear a peep out of Republicans, and you never will about that. But when Obama does it, he thinks he's the king or something. But no, I agree with those initiatives. But on the other hand, they're just crazy with these deportations, to the point that, I know I've mentioned this before on the show, but I listen to him occasionally. Conservative talk show host Michael Savage, who very, very right-wing guy, but he's so over the top with his conservatism that it's almost like, and some have speculated this, that he's sort of cultivated a character, and that he doesn't necessarily believe everything that he says. Very smart guy, but he tends to go over the top. And by the way, the clip is on YouTube. I found it recently. Back in 1996, he had a television show on MSNBC. No, I'm sorry, 96. Wow, what am I thinking? No, this was early 2000s. It was like 2002, before MSNBC kind of morphed into the liberal counterpart to Fox. They used to have actually a mix of conservatives and liberals on MSNBC, and Michael Savage had a show on there. It was a call-in show, and back then, when there were actually call-in shows on television, I mean, that's long gone, but back then they would put an 800 number on the screen, and if you're watching the show live, you could call in, and he got into an argument with a caller, and he wished that caller would get AIDS, and he was fired the next day from MSNBC because wishing aids on someone you disagree with is apparently frowned upon by NBC's news division. So, not that it affected his in the long term. I don't think it hurt his career at all. He's one of the most successful conservative talk shows in the country to this day. But even I went off on a tangent there, but I find Michael Savage fascinating. But even Michael Savage has said, look, they shouldn't be focusing on deporting families, people who've been in the country for years and years and have not made any trouble. They should be focused on deporting criminals. If someone is an illegal immigrant, his term, not mine, I call them undocumented immigrants. But he likes to say things like illegal alien. He likes to use that term. And they're trouble. They've committed crimes. They should be immediately deported. And that should be the focus. And I agree with him on that. So even he has said, splitting up families and whatnot, it's inhumane. And then I saw this article about Joe Biden because a lot of Democrats are furious. There's really been two key things over the course of the Obama administration where his own party has kind of revolted against him. One of them, being the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPA, Trans-Pacific Agreement, whichever term you want to use. Democrats were furious with him over that. That was something where he and Republicans worked together, and it was Democrats who were pretty pissed. And this is the other one, immigration, but specifically, with the deportations and whatnot, but specifically this, Democrats are furious with Obama over these deportations of Central American families. So let me read this quickly. Vice President Joe Biden insisted in a meeting with skeptical House Democrats on Thursday that the administration's deportation raids on families are being carried out as humanely as possible, according to members in the room. A majority of Democrats in Congress assailed the administration earlier this month after it began conducting raids to detain and deport undocumented mothers and children, despite the fact that they face great danger in their home countries in Central America. Biden addressed the issue head-on during a private question and answer session in the House Democrats' retreat in Baltimore. The vice president asked to answer a question on deportations last so he could go into greater detail, said House Democratic Caucus Chairman Xavier Becerra, Democrat of California, one of the members who signed onto a letter condemning the raids. Becerra told reporters afterward, quote, the vice president was very passionate about this. They are trying to do this in not just a constructive and legal way, but they are trying to do it in a humane way, unquote. Boy, that very directly conflicts with some of the stories I've read about how these raids are being conducted. All right. Biden defended President Obama, painting the deportations as the kind of enforcement that happens with attempting to quell concerns for